guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's YouTube video, we're going to be talking about a particular topic that I feel is quite close to my heart because it's something that I've often felt at times throughout my career. And even from time to time, sometimes I just have a day or two where I feel like this and I'm just kind of over everything. But this topic's going to be about if you're feeling really sick of photography or you're really over it at any point and you're really just kind of hating on it for whatever reason, really watch this video because I feel like some of these tips hopefully will be helpful for you. Like I said, this is something I've come across in my career many times before where I've quite often hit a wall with photography, and whether it's the genre that I've been doing more so, which we're really going to go into today, it's really hurt not only my income at certain times, but also my drive and my passion and everything that I really wanted to get out of photography at the end of the day, kind of like lessons when I feel this way. Obviously, it feels like it's kind of like a roadblock to moving on to the next phase with it. So really watch through this video and let's discuss like a few ways that we can kind of get around this feeling if it ever pops up for you. So as I mentioned, there's been numerous times throughout my photography career where I have hit a wall and I have just said, I hate this, or I'm really over it. I don't want to do it anymore. Maybe I feel like I've lost the love for it or the passion for it. And quite often I've found that there's been a few things associated with my feelings with this that have kind of come through and been a lot more obvious later down the track to me. And I think there's things that I could have been doing during these times where I felt that way to kind of regain a bit more inspiration for photography in general. So this is a bit more of a generalized video, and quite often I'll talk about portrait photography and beauty photography and that kind of thing, but really this video is for all photographers. So if you are any type of photographer, this video is kind of for you. I think one thing that has really helped, and in hindsight, as I said, when I felt this way in the past, one thing that I find has really helped in the end was to pivot my photography genre. It doesn't have to be a huge pivot. It can be something that's already related to the genre of photography that you're doing. For example, I was doing fashion photography for a long time. I then pivoted into beauty photography. It kind of flowed into that genre anyway, and it is a completely different genre at the same time. There's a lot more that you need to learn with beauty photography. However, at the same time, it wasn't a huge pivot into it. It kind of just flowed naturally into it, and it also gave me a lot more inspiration with what I was doing. I'd been doing fashion photography at that point for well over 5 or 6 years or 7 years. I can't even remember at this point, but it'd been a long time where that had been my main goal, was to be a fashion photographer. And I was starting to get really tired and really bored and really uninspired with what I was doing. So then I guess finding beauty photography really helped me to kind of move forward into my next phase with photography. Because at the end of the day, I don't really think it's ever photography that I hated. I don't think it's ever photography that I hated. It's always been something that I've loved to do. It's just that I was doing things and maybe not doing things in particular that led to me kind of losing my inspiration and love for it at the time. And when I really think about it, I look back over my career and there's been numerous times where I've pivoted because at certain times of my career, the genre that I've been doing hasn't been fulfilling me, or it just hasn't been inspiring me. So I've kind of shifted into a different direction, which has kind of always worked out for me in the end. So this is something I'd really recommend thinking about if you are at any point hitting a wall with photography like I have in the past. Think about different genres that you could move into that would really regain a little bit more inspiration, and kind of it's a nice way to pivot in terms of a career rather than having to start a completely different career altogether. Moving into a different genre of photography is not that big of a shift as opposed to becoming an engineer or something else. So I think that this is really nice. As photographers, as creatives, we do have a lot of flexibility and room to move. And sometimes this is all we need to really regain a different perspective on what we're doing and a different kind of inspiration to take from it. And really when I think about it, I started off doing conceptual photography. I started to get really down about that after a number of years because although I was enjoying it, I felt like I was not earning money from it. I felt like that in turn was really stifling my creativity because I wasn't earning money, and then I wasn't feeling like my work was good enough, and I was kind of going through this very young photographer's like existential crisis with everything. And then I kind of moved into doing weddings, and that actually did provide me with a good income at times to really invest a little bit more back into my business. It was a totally different genre to learn, and working with other photographers, I learned a lot too, especially about portraiture and how to make people look their best in images, and it was a really good learning process. But then as time went on, I started to get a little bit bored with wedding photography. So I was finding myself feeling a little bit too much like I was doing the same thing over and over again and kind of hitting a wall once again. So then that's when I really pivoted into fashion photography because I was finding that I loved the portraiture style element of it, and photographing people in pretty dresses and things like that. So it's always been a very natural progression for me, I think, when I've pivoted, and it can be for you too if that's something that you are open to. And as I said, it's something that you might find yourself doing several times over the length of your career to really help keep things kind of fresh and inspiring. Doing this, as I said, also helps you to keep learning. In photographing each of these genres, I was learning something completely different that I was able to then take on to the following genre that I did. So it's kind of nice to go through these cycles with photography, and even as a creative going through these different genres, you kind of have a different perspective with photography every time that you're doing something different. It kind of helps you to gain that different perspective every time you're switching genre. And even now, I'm sort of migrating into a lot more travel and landscape photography, as that's something I've always had a bit of an interest in, but I've never had the time and efforts to kind of put into it. But now I'm sort of like experimenting a little bit more with that, and that is completely different to everything that I've done so far. So I think that there's always something to learn from every genre that you do. This is obviously going to be a little bit difficult if you really don't want to pivot your photography genre and you don't want to kind of move into something different. But even if you want to move into something slightly different, it's a really good way to help that inspiration. For example, with beauty photography, for a while there, I was even doing a bit of product photography, which is very much hand in hand with it, but it's not too big of a jump once again into something completely different. But it definitely helped me with certain clients who needed some product shots as well. So just little things, little pivots to help you along in your photography journey and not make it feel like you're doing the same thing over and over every day on repeat. As I said, it's maybe not always photography specifically that you're tired of. It could be elements surrounding that. Even social media can really bring you down, I think, in terms of career goals and your photography and your portfolio and how you feel about it. Seeing everyone else's work on a day-to-day basis on social media can sometimes make that worse. So it can be little elements like that too that may need to be tweaked. And in terms of pivoting into a different genre, you might kind of escape that for a little bit. You might be going into a different place with photography, and it might kind of help you gain that little bit more inspiration. So as I said, if you're feeling this way at the moment, this is just something for you to try if you have the means to. And honestly, this may not work for everyone. This may not be everyone's preferred cup of tea to pivot their genre of photography, but I definitely think it's something worth trying, so you can kind of sandbox yourself and let yourself kind of shoot for the love of shooting again and kind of for the interest of shooting different things, and it really helps with that element. Alright guys, I really want to know your tips for when you hit a wall with photography, when you are not sure where to go and you don't have any direction anymore. What do you do in that situation? I really want to hear this conversation in the comment section below. I'm so interested to hear your thoughts on the matter. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up if you did, and if you're interested in any of my retouching courses, the links for those are in the description box below. Thanks again so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!